Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. Sorry about that. Wish I could have joined sooner.
Oh, it was my fault. It's okay.
No worries.
So I could just jump around then before getting to Genshin.
Yeah, sure. No problems. And good to get on a call with you. Thank you for being accommodating.
Yeah, no problem. So, for people that don't know, I know that you have a really interesting way of how you wound up in voiceover accidentally.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like everyone's story is pretty interesting though, because none of our stories are the same.
Yeah.
But I wasn't an actor at all growing up. I didn't, do drama club. I didn't do anything like that. I was very on a very typical like immigrant kid path. I thought I was going to go to law school. And I was in college, and this was like just before the pandemic, and I was starting to get interested in like audio dramas because a friend of mine was into audio dramas and podcasts. And I think I auditioned for one that was fun, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And for a while, it was just a hobby, and I didn't even think of it as acting at that point. Um, but then when the pandemic hit and like suddenly every acting teacher in LA or in New York was online, I think I kind of was like, hmm, this will be interesting. And now that, I have access to all this stuff now, might as well take advantage of it. Um, took a few acting classes, kind of fell in love with it. And the rest is history.
When you did get to LA too, is there a special story of how you got into SAG?
Well, actually, I only just moved to LA this year, and I have been working on union projects for much longer than that, like for a few years now, and was living out in Virginia recording remotely on like video games and animation and dubbing and everything. So, uh, I'm trying to remember what my very first SAG project was. I think it might have been I was one of the player voices in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Okay.
Um yeah, which was a really cool project to work on. I love the writing. That game was hilarious. And I'm pretty sure I think that was my first SAG project. Um which is a really cool entry into like the world of the union because that game was just really special to me, and the director on that, Joel McDonald, is like the funniest person, and so that was really fun.
Mm.
Yeah,
What a,
but all
what about
recorded from my like little closet booth in Virginia. So it was a long time ago.
yeah? What about
Yeah.
your first like major anime part?
um it's hard because all of my roles feel big to me, even in projects that I don't know if anyone's heard of. um I guess like my first main cast role was the summer of 2021, and I was in a show called Fena Pirate Princess that was on Adult Swim. It was my first main cast role, and I think like my third booking ever, period, like third acting job ever. Um, and it was really, really cool. The show was so much fun. If you haven't heard of it, it's about like these ninja pirates, and there's mystery and adventure and romance, and it's really fun. And I had a really good time on it. But the best part of it was the experience of the cast coming together and I've been on a lot of projects since then, and I've never had the experience of a cast coming together about a project the way I had on that show. When the episodes were dropping on Adult Swim, like every single week, like clockwork, we would be like making so much noise. We would get it trending every single week. And we got really, really close, and that was super cool. And the project was produced by NYAV Post, and then that's how I met the folks over there. And then I have gone on to now I work at NYIV Post, and I am a production supervisor there, and I get to work on a lot of really cool movies and shows with them. So that was a really good experience.
And
Yeah.
did you take the dubbing easier, or was it harder to get used to for you?
I think it was difficult to get used to. Some people I feel like just immediately sort of can lock into it. They just immediately can get into it. But I think It's funny because I think dubbing is probably one of the most technically challenging things you can do in voice acting because you have to drive this very real performance while also like matching flap and like stopping after every single take and like uh you know you have to be in it and also be able to like get back out of it to take the technical notes in the same it's rubbing your stomach, patting your head. So I think starting with dubbing was like it was like being thrown into the deep end. I really enjoyed that experience. And it was a fun challenge, but it was challenging. It was hard. And sometimes it still is hard. I think like when I record for video games and animation, it's like infinitely easier, but uh, but it's still fun, and I still really enjoy it. So
Mhm. I know
yeah,
that you got to become involved with Pokemon relatively early on in your career too.
yeah, yeah. I think it was wow. I think it must have been was it 2021 also? I don't remember. A couple years ago. Where I started recording for Pokemon as Danica in Journeys uh and I was also in the Pokemon Masters game and like that was really cool. I did not expect like in a million years I would be involved in Pokemon as one of the leads. So getting to like be a small part of the franchise was enough for me. I was like over the moon. I was so happy because I grew up with Pokemon just like everyone else. And I played the games on like I like would steal my cousin's Game Boy and play on his Game Boy and I like watched the show religiously and I don't think I ever collected the cards. But I even played Pokemon Go when it came out a few years ago. Like I was living in London at the time when it came out and like literally would just with my friends scour London trying to catch Pokemon. Anyway, but I was already so happy and satisfied to get to play a small piece of it. Um so then, being cast as Roy and having a lot of fun getting to record uh, the beginnings of his journey with Liko has been very, very cool. I'm very excited for this to drop and for people to get to see. I think they're going to enjoy it.
Speaking of boy voices, do you have a particular process for that for you?
Oh, I don't think I have anything that's distinct for boy voices versus like any other characters I play. I think usually it's more of for me the visual helps a lot. Seeing what the character looks like can communicate a lot to me about what I want the voice to sound like, even if it's not something I can necessarily put into words. Um, I feel like I mean, I was always a visual learner in school, and I feel like that translates to the way that I like come up with character voices as well. Um, and so yeah, I guess that's my process. It's different for like games or animation where you usually don't see the visuals until you might never see the visuals until the game comes out or the show comes out or whatever. But luckily for dubbing, you always have the visuals because you're dubbing to the visuals. And so for Roy, I think he looks like such an upbeat and happy kid that I feel like that was sort of the driving force to like where I wanted his voice to sit. Um, yeah, yeah. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. Did you have any different of a approach to Orient, or was it kind of the same thing?
Um, kind of, yes, because I think from what I remember, that character was a little bit more it was a little darker and had
Right.
some more going on his family situation and also that was like a young version of the character that we did get to see later and so watching Stephen Fu's performance a little bit and trying to find connections there I think inherently made him a little different. He was still, I think from what I remember, he still had his happy moments just because there was like a budding friendship that we were exploring a lot of those like memory scenes. Um, So we got to see him be a happy kid too, but I don't know that that was like his like defining trait the way that it was for Roy. So, you know, like the subtle differences there.
Mhm. What
Yeah.
do you think? What do you think the case where you've had to alter your voice the most for something is so far?
Ooh, of stuff that has been released. Hmm. Hmm. I think there are, oh no, this hasn't been released. Never mind, I'm not gonna talk about that. I don't know. I think probably characters like Dori or characters like Shinigami in Master Detective Archives, Raincode. Those characters where they tend to be really zany and crazy and pitched up. I think those are probably pretty different from the way that I usually sound. And so probably those. I wouldn't call those like vocally stressful or anything. There are definitely characters that are very distinct from how I sound, but I don't think anything's been released yet. So yeah, probably those two. They sound pretty different from the way that I just like talk. So
Well, at least based off of the few lines that were in the end of the Fate Strange Fake, it sounds like Ayaka is kind of like your natural voice.
oh yeah, I think she's probably yeah, I feel like she's definitely like the closest to just my speaking voice, which hey, I don't mind it. I like the trend I think we've seen in the last like decade or so of in anime starting to go for very, very natural sounding voices. I think that there's like a level of realism there that's really cool, and I like that we're exploring that. Uh, and of course, shows like in every decade have done that. But I think like now especially we're more and more like really embracing different vocal types, so that's been really cool. So yeah, I'm excited for more Fate. We'll see. That'll be fun whenever it comes up.
Hmm. Were you a fan of the franchise already?
Not really because I hadn't known too much about it. I had friends who were really, really into it, who were very, very excited for me. But I've been doing my research and like starting to get caught up. There's just so much of it that I've been like slowly chipping away. Um, but it's been cool. It's been really fun to like get into the world building of it all. And all these different characters, some of which we're, you know, seeing return. Uh, and so it's very cool.
And in terms of your major characters so far, who do you think that you personally relate the most to?
Um, Probably Kiriko in Heavenly Delusion, which was a show that came out this year. Um, I think that that show and that character holds such a special place in my heart. Um, I I relate to Kiriko a lot, even though I know there's like a lot of sci-fi craziness that goes on in that show. So I don't mean that, but I think that like, you know, they took on I think they're a really interesting character for being someone who is both in the relationship we primarily see them in throughout the show. They're like the older sibling figure and like having to take on that more mature role and having to be more responsible of the two between um Kiriko and Maru, even though they get into their shenanigans, and yet at the same time still, you know, still being a kid and like still sort of having to like recover from a lot of the stuff that they've gone through and like still feeling vulnerable in a lot of places, sometimes naive in a lot of places, like still learning and still growing basically. And I feel like I can relate to that a lot. Like you know, I feel like a lot of us have experienced that like, you know, being thrust into like responsibility or like feeling like you're growing up too soon and like having to deal with a lot of stuff, but then also feeling like you're just a kid dealing with all these problems. Um, and so I related in a lot of ways. Also, there was like a lot of identity stuff in that show that I was like, I relate to this a lot. And even though there's like a sci-fi twist to it, it was still really cool the way that they did it. Um, yeah, I think everyone should go watch that show. If you haven't seen it, I feel like it's so good. I will never stop gushing over the writing in that show. It's so good. I love like every character in it. Um, so yeah, I have all of the manga in my room. Anyway.
Do you think that's also the darkest headspace you've had to go for a character too?
Yeah, I think so. Of stuff that's out, I think definitely. That show went to some pretty dark places, and was a very difficult role, but I also feel like I, as like a person and an actor, grew a lot just from the experience of getting to explore all of that with Kiriko. And I don't think a lot of actors have that luxury because it was a luxury, it was a gift to be able to do that. Um, and it's a tough show to watch and perform. But I also think the way that they handled it and a lot of the more mature themes were always so deliberate and always so like I always felt like the story respected the characters even when there were things going on that were absolutely horrific. Um and I appreciated that. I felt like okay, even when you're suffering, Kiriko, you're being taken care of in some way. Like you're being, you know what I mean? And so I appreciated that. And that helped me as an actor get through some of those tough moments.
Mhm. I'm sure it had to be I don't know about the timeline, but I'm sure it had to be freeing in contrast doing a lemon and Mashla.
Oh yeah. Timeline wise, I think I did start recording. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I started recording for Mashal before the end of
Okay.
Heavenly Delusion. I think so. And yeah, those characters are so different. Lemon is the sweetest thing in the world. I had a lot of fun on that show just because everyone is hilarious in it, and then Lemon is just so earnest that like she her positivity and like her almost delusional optimism sometimes just was really really fun. I think also I would always just be like busting out laughing while recording because I'd be hearing like in my cans, Alex or like any of the other actors really in our main group, just them being hilarious. And so it was hard to record for a different reason because I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, can we just stop because I'm laughing too hard. Um, but yeah, she was like brought the fresh air. She was, so sweet and like it was a super fun show and a very, very different vibe. Um so that was really cool. Also, I got to work with Alex Von David, the director on that, who I love. He's fantastic. He also directed Raincode. So that is always a pleasure.
How did you handle someone like Shinigami? Because that's obviously a very happy character in a dark setting.
Yeah, I mean, Shinigami was really interesting because I well, I think it's interesting because the way that the game is set up and the way that the dialogue is written, Alex had such a hard task trying to explain to me all of the mysteries and like what was going on because I think with the visuals it helps a lot. But when you just have the dialogue to go off of, that was tough. The scripts are tough. It was super fun, and like Shinigami obviously has fun on like every single line. So like as a job, I was like, this is great. I'm enjoying myself. Like I'm having a ton of fun. Everyone's laughing. Like it's cool. Um, but I think for that, like, and even in dark settings, even when people are dying, like she's having a good time. And so like when you're getting into character and like, you know, you don't take that stuff as seriously. Oh, someone, was brutally like hacked to death or something. Cool, that's so great. Like it's just like you get into that like a character that doesn't take anything too seriously is fun in a way that like I think playing a villain might be fun. I've never played a villain, but I feel like Shinigami might be the closest I've come to it. Just because she's like she doesn't have boundaries or the same sort of you know, moral questions or quandaries the way other characters have moral limitations. She's just
Mhm.
she's she's a little unhinged, and I loved that about her. And so I don't think it was like a difficult juggling act to be as crazy as she was in a dark setting. Because that's her bread and butter. She enjoys it. She loves it. And so I was enjoying it and loving it. But my biggest challenge on the game was definitely sometimes being confused and being like, Alex, wait, what's going on? Just explain that one more time. So I don't have the visuals to help me, and the mysteries are complicated. So, you know,
Hmm.
yeah.
Are you also comfortable hearing yourself in anime and whatever?
Um, kind of. I think it's a yes and a no. I feel like if I have enough distance in between when I recorded it, when I'm listening back, I'm okay. But if it's like immediately, I don't know why. I still feel weird about it. Um, and yeah, I think that's an interesting part of like sometimes joining IPs that I'm a fan of, because I'm like, well, I'm gonna watch this because I'm a fan of it, but if I'm in it, I do feel a little weird. And I'm like, oh, wait, maybe I should wait and watch this like way later and like catch up or something like that. I don't know. I think over time I'll probably be better with it, but for now I still feel a little weird. Um and I think the like thing that everyone feels like, uh, people who aren't voice actors, when you're hearing your own voice back, I don't know, it's like unsettling a little bit. And I don't think that entirely changes when you become a voice actor. Um, so, kind of, I guess is my answer.
So with Genshin, considering that you played several NPCs before, did you also audition for playable characters
I
before you?
did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Most of the NPCs, I think I just, was called in to play a couple characters, so that was super fun. But I was actively auditioning for playable. So I auditioned for Dori, did a callback, and then got the role. Uh, and so I was because I'd been in as NPCs, I was familiar with both the directors, both Chris and Brooke at that point, and familiar enough like with, oh, there's an upcoming region and like with the characters, etc. So it wasn't, yeah, it was the usual audition process. It wasn't anything too out of the ordinary.
Was she also someone that you could easily connect to at all?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like we could all relate to Dory. I think Dory kind of reminds me of and I got Prince done just for this. She very much reminds me of like that scene from like DuckTales where Scrooge McDuck like dives into like a room full of gold coins. And so I feel like I really channeled that kind of energy with her. I don't know. I think she has a really interesting backstory, and I think she has a lot of, reasons for being fixated on what she is fixated on. She obviously has she's a fun character, of course, and I think, people enjoy her because she is like, has high energy. She can be sarcastic sometimes, a little snarky, and she like has a very, tunnel vision goal on making more moolah and like whatever. But I also think she's just interesting because so much of it is the front, and I'm like, oh, this poor kid who's like who's who's clearly, this is a coping mechanism. Clearly, you've been through it. And I feel like she reminds me of I forget what the quote is, but it's something like, the people who laugh the most are the ones who are crying inside, if that's
Yeah.
not super depressing. I feel like it's kind of like that. She's a hilarious character, but um she has her depth. I liked reading up on her backstory a little as I was, sending in my audition. Um, and uh, yeah, it was cool. And it's also cool, like as they like cast all the other characters, and you slowly, get things announced and get to hear people's voice lines and everything. It's also really cool just to hear like the cast chemistry between all the different characters, and like how like they're all configured, but they kind of also all meld together and work together. Like it's really interesting.
What are your thoughts on her relationship with other Sumeru characters?
I think I think I like her relationship. I mean, I think they're very in character. Like, I think everything kind of makes sense. I want her to open up more, I guess. I feel like the one thing that I'm like, I feel like we can, you can open your heart. But for the most part, I think that her relationships make sense. Like she has a lot of like she knows what she needs people for. She gets to the point. She's very direct, unless she's swindling you. I think and so I appreciate that about her. I feel like I never am confused about what it is she wants from someone. Yeah.
Do you have, I'm sure there's more than one, but do you have single favorite lines?
Mm, I don't know. What is that one line? Oh gosh. I'm forgetting it. But it's when I think it's when she like eats something that she doesn't like that she doesn't like, and she says something about oh gosh, like, are you trying to give me mental trauma or something like that. That is my favorite line. That one was so fun. I She can be snarky. I like that a lot in a character. And I was like, yeah, you know what, if you're feeding me like sludge, I might say that, like, yeah. um I wouldn't, but I just think she's funny. That line was super fun. So yeah.
I take it too that you became friends with the other cast members pretty early on.
Yeah. I've gotten to know some of the cast members who I hadn't known before, but I've also had a a couple people who were like already good friends of mine join the cast, which was really cool. One of them, Ben Balmaceda, who plays Kave. I was so excited for him. It was so cool. Yeah, that was really great. Christina Costello, who's amazing. Other people who are slipping my mind because everyone on the face of the earth is in this game. Um, but yeah, it's really cool. I think Genshin is just such a like welcoming environment amongst the actors. It's been really cool to like get to connect with everyone. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited for this new region too. I mean, like they announced all the playables who I love everyone. But it's also cool to see like a bunch of new people getting like some of their first big game roles as like NPCs and stuff. And I think that part is really, really cool too. And like kind of building this like big family of like folks in Genshin. It's super fun. Yeah.
Was it a similar audition for Honkai Star Rail?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was the same sort of idea where you just get an audition in the inbox and send it through. I don't think I had a call back for Sushang, but I did get an initial audition and started recording not too long after that. Um, and then had to sit on it for like over a year. I can't remember how long it was. It was a good minute. Dori, I think I she was released like not very long after I'd been cast, pretty soon after. So Sushang, I think I'd been cast as before I'd been cast as Dori. And so it was a minute waiting for that. But it was really cool. And I'm really like happy like the response that Honkai has been getting as well. I think that Sushang she's so different from Dori. She, be the best that she can be, and she's so like she inspires me. She's a very cool girl. I think at 15 I was not nearly as driven as she is. And so I that's a really fun game to work on. But no, the audition process wasn't very horribly different.
Mhm. Do you think that you relate more to Dory then between them, or
Well, I don't know about that. I probably do relate to Sushang. I don't know if I was as driven as she was, but I think that like um just in terms of our goals, I think I probably relate to more to Sushang more. Just because Dory is so money driven. Um, but I yeah, and I think I also try not to swindle people too much. I feel like I don't do that, and so I feel like I probably would draw the line in the sand there between me and Dory. I think that something I like to emulate that Sushang does. She's very, very committed to like wanting to help people, and so maybe I'm being very optimistic to say I'm more similar to her. But I think I admire a lot of those qualities, and I feel like I try to do that. I try to do those things as well.
So I'm guessing that we've probably already talked about the most safest things that you can talk about, like in terms of recently released stuff.
I think so. I'm trying to think of like, yeah, stuff that's been released forever ago. I'm like, this is safe, and everything else, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I know there's the new JJK season that's out.
Yes. Well, I did get to announce it was very cool. Playing Yuki in that. The show is really cool as well. I everyone I know is obsessed with it, and I am not caught up in this season, which is ironic because I'm in it, but I loved the first season. Um, and so it's pretty cool to be a part of it. Yeah, it's the show is crazy. I don't have to tell you that. And I just from researching the character, I know it's only gonna get crazier. So we'll see. And I don't know if I could say anything else.
Well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, what do I want my legacy to be? I think I think all I really want is and it doesn't necessarily have to be legacy in terms of like someone remembers my name specifically or me as a part of it, but I just hope that like someone, like anyone out there would enjoy a piece of media, something that I'm in and come away from it feeling better, you know. I leaving some sort of positive impact on people, I think is really all I can hope for. Anything more than that is nice and it's like, very flattering, but I think that's I do this because I just really like acting, and then if, someone has something to take away from that and has a positive experience watching this stuff, that's an amazing feeling. So, yeah.
Well, thank you about that we got to do this.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on. This was super fun.
Yeah, hope you have a good rest of your day then.
Yeah, you too. All right, you have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, bye.
All right, bye.